Hello, everyone. It's good to see you today. I am here with Ask the Insider on allergyinsider.com, here on Instagram to talk about Beyond Meat Allergy, alpha-gal syndrome. And so this is a condition that we're going to talk about that actually pertains to allergy. We have some really great guests. I'm waiting for them to join. But they are the two alpha-gals. Two alpha-gals are introductions in just a moment, but I'm excited to have a deeper conversation with these ladies so that they can tell their story and their history with alpha-gal. So it's good to see you. So Debbie and Candace, it's a pleasure. I am Tara Bruner. I am manager of our clinical education at Thermo Fisher Scientific. So we develop and have allergy tests out there. And so I am also a practicing PA in the great state of Arkansas. So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Oh, well, thank you for having us here today, Tara. We're really excited to chat with everybody. I'm Candace Mathis, and I live in Southwest Virginia. Clearly, Debbie and I live very close to each other. I was officially diagnosed with alpha-gal in 2019. So I had kind of a longer journey. I mean, both Debbie and I did, but I'll let her tell a little bit about her story. I woke up one day having anaphylactic reactions that were not recognized by medical professionals because I have a drop in blood pressure and tachycardia, so rapid heart rate, GI issues, feeling like I'm going to pass out, those types of things, and I don't have hives and swelling. So it took me about 3 to 4 months to get an official diagnosis, and I had to go to UVA, which is the University of Virginia, about two and a half hours from where we are here. So during that time, I was pretty much couch bound, and Debbie and I were newer friends. And I just felt pulled to ask her for help, which was very hard to do. But she became like my first responder, and husband was at work. And so we kind of navigated this very acute time together. And then I learned after my diagnosis that Debbie was dealing with some of the similar symptoms over the years.
Yeah, so I had been dealing with symptoms at least 10 years at that point, so somewhere around 2007, 2008, and my symptoms were sort of all over the place, but never, or very infrequently, were they hives, or never swelling, but sometimes hives. But it was more typically things like joint pain and a lot of GI distress, like so much so that I would go to specialist after specialist trying to get answers and come away with nothing. I was diagnosed at one point with IBS instead of alpha-gal, and I did make the connection around 2015 that red meat did seem to trigger my GI distress, but even then, no diagnosis. And then I had my gallbladder removed, trying to resolve the GI issues. But once I started staying with Candace when she was so sick, I was observing some of these similar symptoms, similar patterns that we shared. Right. So when she got her alpha-gal diagnosis, I went and requested one, and sure enough, it was positive.
Wow. Yeah. We're talking about an allergy here.
Right.
And the symptoms that you're describing don't follow that typical pattern. So typically we say if you ingest a food, it's more of an immediate reaction, meaning you have classic symptoms, hives, maybe swelling of the mouth and lips and difficulty breathing, or even drop in blood pressure. But usually it's, immediate. You eat a peanut and something happens if you happen to have an allergy towards that. But this is an unusual presentation. And so our discussion today is to help drive that awareness, because it sounds like the symptoms are atypical or unusual. And so with that being said, years went by, is what I understood with both of you, that you had these atypical symptoms. And so alpha-gal, I'll just give a little brief history on alpha-gal, is actually a sugar molecule. It has a fancy medical name or chemical structure name, but we'll just stick with alpha-gal. Is actually it's fairly new. So it was around 2010, 2014 that they even identified that the sugar molecule was causing symptoms like this. The sugar molecule is transferred from a mammalian meat, and typically the most common here in the United States is a tick a lone star tick that kind of follows the deer population.
Mhm.
And then it falls off the deer and then attaches to a human. And that, so it's a tick-borne illness, but not the typical Lyme's disease or Rocky Mountain spotted fever. It actually transmits that sugar molecule into the human, and the body makes an allergic response to it.
Right.
But the symptoms are so atypical. So tell us a little bit more about what patients who may be saying, oh, I wonder,
Yeah.
you know, you've told us a little bit, but I know you've spent a lot of time because you do have this great organization, this great website, this social media presence. Tell us a little bit about some of the symptoms that you've heard and the difficulty some people have with finding that diagnosis.
Sure. So you nailed it when you said it's atypical. So one of the classic like hallmark symptoms is that we have a delayed reaction. So that's what makes diagnosis initially very challenging, especially for providers. If someone shows up in the ER, say at midnight, 1 a.m., they've eaten a steak for dinner and they wake up hours later. You know, some people are covered in hives. Some people have extreme GI distress, drop in blood pressure. Itching of the palms and the soles of the feet are another kind of classic symptom. But if they end up in the ER with any of these symptoms, the provider is going to say, "What did you just eat?" And that person, you know, being if you're in a very confused state or you're in anaphylaxis and it's hard to think because you have brain fog or that impending doom, it's hard to articulate and you can't think back, you know, that far. So we have seen, you know, initially the time to diagnosis was around 7 years, but within the past year, there was some data that came out that that's now shortened to several months for people. So we're really, really happy to hear that it's not taking quite as long. Yeah.
Something else I would add to that, to it being atypical, is that there is a GI only presentation of alpha-gal syndrome. So some people experience only gastrointestinal distress, like, you know, diarrhea, stomach pain, vomiting, nausea, those type of things that are not accompanying any other symptom, you know, because it can present with your typical allergy symptoms, even if it's delayed. But we have this one GI version, which makes it so difficult to diagnose. And people are, you know, constantly being diagnosed with IBS like I was, even though I did have additional symptoms. A lot of people do. But what we've learned now is that there is research being done. Dr. Sarah McGill down at UNC is doing research. She's a gastroenterologist down there, identifying that some of her patients, you know, that would fit the profile of someone with IBS are actually living with alpha-gal syndrome. And so, so information and awareness is on the rise for this particular variety as well.
You know, I was listening. So we had you as guest a couple of years ago, I believe, and I was listening to that again. And really, what I walked away with is this term, unnecessarily suffered, because there is a blood test that can actually diagnose this. Right. So tell us a little bit more about how you counsel people to ask, because you even said that, you know, you had to go ask for a test for these symptoms because you're not necessarily presenting to the ER every night after you eat meat. Maybe it is that every other day you have these just uncomfortable symptoms that maybe get blown off. So tell us how to unnecessarily suffer by advocating for your testing and answers.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic thing. We actually have a post that says, test, don't guess. So, you know, if you
like that.
you know, don't unnecessarily suffer. If you have been, you know, kind of on the same trajectory that Debbie and I were for years and seeing specialists and your PCP and you're in and out of various, you know, providers' offices, you can, you know, certainly request this test. I mean, I know some providers will ask, did you see a tick? That's not always the case for everyone. You know, I think a lot of people don't see the tick that bit them. If you're in a high prevalence area, you know, definitely rule it out. It's, from what I understand, and Tara, correct me if I'm wrong, but the test is covered by insurance mostly. Like, it's one blood test. It's not a panel. It's not, you know, something that's going to be very expensive. We really try to just empower people to keep asking questions, and to, you know, not stop. And if they're not getting the answer and the care that they deserve to find a different provider. I mean, really, because I think we deserve to be taken seriously and, just feel empowered in our healthcare team.
Absolutely. So just to reiterate that this, when we think allergies, sometimes we think, oh, I've got to go see an allergist and get maybe a skin prick test. But alpha-gal is actually diagnosable through a blood test. So again, ask your primary care provider, maybe your internal medicine. This is actually something, you bring up something about that tick bite. Usually when we think about tick-borne illnesses, we want to know in the past week or two, have you noticed a tick on you? And what's interesting is understanding some of the science and this delayed response is that really the tick bite could have been 6 months ago. Not anywhere in the near future, in the recent past, I should say. And so that could be even perplexing. I mean, I haven't been outside. Maybe it's the winter that you have symptoms that present. So interestingly enough, this is again a fairly young diagnosis to be dealing with. So many people, maybe providers, may not be aware of this, and you might need to get some resources to take with you.
Yes.
So I'm going to take this back to a little bit of more, what awareness. Society needs awareness, and so we're using the social media platform, but another huge tool is to use legislation. So in allergy, we have, it used to be the big 8 allergens that cause allergy-like symptoms. Right. Then it became the 9th with sesame. Tell us about the potential 10th major allergen. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with that.
Thank you so much for asking. Yes, so we actually have a bill that's in Congress, we as an alpha-gal community, as an allergy community, to add alpha-gal as the 10th most common allergen. So it would actually add it to the list, making it the 10th, which would mean that it would have to be labeled on packaged foods. In the same way that milk or soy or sesame have now. So going to the grocery store is an enormous challenge for anyone with allergies, but with alpha-gal, nothing has to be labeled. And oftentimes things containing the alpha-gal molecule have these sort of obscure names that are hard to identify. And even then, some ingredients could come from mammals, but they could also come from plants, like
hidden. Yeah, those hidden things. Tell us more about the hidden alpha-gal.
Oh, you want to talk about the hidden alpha-gal?
We'll be here forever. But yeah, it's a big deal.
So the bill would actually it would have a huge impact on the ease of sort of navigating this for our community.
Yes.
Right. So some of those things. So we talk beyond meat. So we know that alpha-gal causes an allergy to mammalian meat. Right. There are a lot of byproducts of mammalian meat. Some of those, and I welcome you to get some of those obscure ones, but gelatin. Gelatin can come and have a similar sugar molecule. So gelatins, even gel caps, or Tylenol gel caps, or perhaps maybe certain jellies, things like that. Even bovine. Sometimes we have to use bovine, in medicines, meaning that it came from an animal. Even things like venison, all of those different, even now I'm from Arkansas, you're from Virginia. I can't say that those are too different, but rabbit meat and things, that you would think, who eats that? But yeah, in these prevalent states, cosmetics, what other things could be hidden alpha-gal?
So there's, tallow, lanolin, collagen. So I'm thinking more beauty. But
we all think we need to fix the wrinkles, and collagen could be a trigger.
I mean, there can be marine collagen, but again, you have to specify.
Sure. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Vitamin D. So vitamin D3 that can be added to cereal, to orange juice. We really have to watch that in supplement. Some hidden sources of mammal, can be in filtration, like our water filters. So we have to see certain bottled water because cattle bone char can be used in filtration, and also sugar. So we have to be very, very aware of that. Not everyone is reactive to all of these byproducts. Unfortunately, we're on more of the sensitive side. But we just encourage people, like, if you cut out one thing, like just the meats, and you're continuing to react, you might need to start looking at some of the byproducts. What are some other obscure ones?
Well, I was just going to say, you have to really look at anything you put in, on, or around your body when you have alpha-gal, because a lot of us also react to the fumes that come from cooking mammal. But I mean, really, all the health and beauty products, the cosmetics we have to look at. We have to look at household products. So sometimes these can be found in household cleaners, household products like toilet paper and things like that. Tissues can have it. So really, every single thing we buy turns into a little bit of an investigation. And oftentimes it's not clearly labeled at all. So we have to get on the phone and call manufacturers and find out.
Wow.
Gelatin is sourced from animals, if it's sourced from, plants or from fish. So it is arduous.
Yeah, and I just saw someone comment like natural flavorings
Yeah.
are huge. There can be so many derivatives of that. Carrageenan, so another like wrench in all of this is that red algae they have found contains the alpha-gal epitope. So we have to be very careful with any red algae derivative because it can also cause severe reactions in some people, and it's not a mammal. So and so that, as far as we know, carrageenan is added to the legislation language as well. So they're trying to cover all of the bases because this is such a complex situation for a lot of people, and we need transparency as much as possible.
So things I'm hearing is do not unnecessarily suffer. Advocate for yourself, but also advocate. Maybe speak to your legislator. Hey, this bill is in front of the House. Maybe having some of those conversations, because you have to advocate, because this is a young disease state that we need more monies and awareness and research into. Absolutely. So again, I really think that you have a great resource. So anybody unfamiliar with the two Alpha Gals, your website has resources. Tell us a little bit more about the resources that you provide. Just, linking this community, if you will.
Yeah, sure. So we do have resources on our website. And before I tell you exactly what those are, we developed all this with the intention of helping people diagnosed with alpha-gal syndrome or who suspect they have alpha-gal syndrome move from survival, right? Because that's a huge part of this. You have to figure out how to not have anaphylactic reactions.
Yeah, navigate. Yeah.
But move from that state into a state of reinvention, because as we said, everything you put in, on, and around your body, into resilience, and ultimately back to joy. That's the idea.
I love that.
Stay in this dark place of this diagnosis. We wanted to be able to get back outside where the ticks are. We wanted to be able to do the things that we loved, or most of them. We can't go eat a hamburger anymore, but we've got lots of substitutions.
It's true. It's true.
But so in order to help other people do that, we created some resource guides, which one of them is just your alpha-gal basics, alpha-gal 101. Just we sort of tried to break it down in these digestible pieces about what alpha-gal is and how to manage it, and even offer some product suggestions as far as what might be safe, where you might find some hidden sneaky sources, what you could maybe substitute out for. And then we also did a kitchen foundations guide, so that in addition to talking some about the labeling on foods, also addresses how to reinvent your pantry and your refrigerator, and offers some suggestions for substituting meals, and we even provide some recipes in there. So we started with our resource guide, but we also have our food allergy mentorship program. So what we do is we have a program where we mentor people 2-on-1, so you get both of us, and we, over a period of 6 weeks, we just talk about everything from survival to the kitchen to medications in the household and beauty products, all the way through, getting back out there, supporting yourself, self-advocating, but being able to travel again, eat at restaurants again, things like that. So
yeah, you even have on there some mental health, support, because this could be, like you said, it could feel isolating. Right. But you want to promote the joy that you can still live a fulfilled life, but have to be cautious. I really think that this is exciting information, because there is hope in it. That necessarily mean everything's off limits, but there's, I think that the initiatives that you have, the 2-on-1 guidance that you give is just really something that I think a lot of people need. So I live in Arkansas, you live in Virginia. We're in that area where there's more of the deer population, but we do know that other countries have this, and other vectors, maybe other ticks that are not in this, kind of central southeast part of the United States. So this isn't just limited to one area. It is really probably a bigger problem than what we suspect right now. So advocate for yourself that there's a blood test. Any parting words of wisdom? I know there's been some great little nuggets of, just find the joy and don't unnecessarily suffer, et cetera. Anything else to add before we discontinue this conversation?
I would just say, anyone that's newly diagnosed, or family member that's newly diagnosed, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
In the moment of the really challenging times. I think that is the hardest thing, is giving yourself the grace and self-compassion that you need in those moments. That's something we try to really drive home with our clients, because like you said, Tara, it can be very isolating. So, find the one person around you that is going to lock arms with you and be your ally and kind of help you rise up through that challenging time. And if you need support, yes.
Wow.
And one more thing that it's a little bit more on the business end. If you think you have this, whether or not you've had a blood test or you're scheduled to see your allergist or PCP to get one, Dr. Cummins, one of the lead researchers in this, try cutting mammal out of your diet. See if you feel better. We know it's more complicated than just that. It involves a whole lot more than that, but that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Great information. Again, I want to thank you, the two alpha gals, Candace and Debbie. Thank you for your time today. There's resources on Allergy Insider. There's resources at 2alphagals.com. So again, thank you. And we look forward to the next Ask the Insider. But thank you for what you do, ladies.
Aww, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for
us.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.